So what's going to happen when the world comes to an end? Is the world going to come to an end? What's going to happen after my death and all of those kind of things? We're going to discuss that in this video. This video is a part of a larger series of videos called The Disciple. If you go to our YouTube channel, Bethel Pittsburgh, go under playlist, you'll find a playlist that's titled The Disciple. And in there, you'll notice that the titles of the videos will say The Disciple, and then it'll say a category, and all the videos are arranged in category order, and so you can check those you can move through it by category. And this is under the category of theology, and our 10th core doctrine that we're going to begin to explore is eschatology. Eschatology is the term that's given to the study of end things, like what happens at the end, which can incorporate not only the end of the world, but also the end of our lives. And in this video, as we start the journey, I'm actually just going to do a survey of the concepts that fit under the umbrella of eschatology, and maybe give some explanation to the differing views that are out there. And then in the videos ahead, for this category, I'll move through each specific thing, bringing in scripture to get a picture of it. So here's what happens in eschatology. So first, we'll do the end of all things, so the end of the world. And even secular culture is interested in this idea of the end of the world, though they'll have different views than the Christian perspective. But even within the Christian community, there are differing perspectives as to what's going to take place, because there's even the lead up to the end of the world. So what's going to happen prior to the end of the world, or prior to the rapture, which I'll get to in a moment. Prior to the rapture, what's going to happen before the rapture takes place? Now, some believe that it's just going to keep progressively getting worse. I'm not saying that's wrong, I'm just saying that that's a viewpoint. And again, we'll look at scripture on that down the road. Some believe that the world's just going to keep progressively getting worse. So if it's bad now, if Jesus doesn't rapture us or return in the next 5 years, it's going to be even worse. It's just going to keep getting worse. Some believe that there's going to be some great revival that happens right before the rapture or right before the second coming of Jesus Christ. And they have verses that they point to say that why they believe that. Some believe that the church is going to actually make everything right. Everything's going to come under the rule of the church first, and then Jesus will return. I think that is often a Catholic view, but that is a belief that some people hold. And so there's differing views on what people think is going to happen prior to either the rapture or the second coming. Now, I keep saying that either the rapture or the second coming. Some believe that Jesus is going to come back, and that's all there is to it. Other people believe that Jesus is going to rapture up. So everybody that followed Christ in their lifetime and died are going to be raptured up to the sky. And those who are alive still at that time are going to be raptured up into the sky to be with Jesus. They're going to all be taken out of the world, and then all the unbelievers will remain on the earth for a period of time. Now, the Left Behind series is a series, they even produced a movie out of those book series that really promotes that idea that we're going to be raptured out of the church. But there are a lot of theologians and denominations that hold to that view. We're a part of the Assemblies of God that does hold to that view, that there will be a rapturing out of all the believers out of the world. And some people believe, though, there's differing views with the rapture even. Some people believe the rapture will happen before the tribulation period begins, which I'll get to in a moment. Some people believe it will happen before it begins, right before it begins. Some people believe it will happen right in the middle, and the reason for that seems like in Scripture that half of the tribulation period is the wrath of the Antichrist, and half of it is the wrath of God, and the believers are going to be raptured out of the wrath of God portion of it, which means they get taken 3.5 years into tribulation. Some people believe the rapture will happen at the end of the tribulation, and then there's something that happens in between before the second coming. And so that's called pre, post, or pre, mid, and post-tribulation rapture views. So those sit out there. It's different views that people have. Then there's the tribulation period. Now, some people believe that when the Bible refers to this tribulation period, it's really just a reflection of tribulation in human history, and not a literal period of time as far as 7 years are concerned. But others believe that the tribulation period is a literal 7-year period of tribulation on the earth. People have different views on what they think happens during that time, but a common viewpoint is, like I just mentioned, that half of the time is the Antichrist, his wrath on the earth, his reign on the earth for those 3.5 years, and then the remaining 3.5 years is God pouring out his supernatural wrath on the earth. People have Bible verses as to why they believe this, which again, we'll get into that later, but we just want to get to the basically the table of contents of eschatology. Then there are different things that are going to take place within the tribulation, at least it's believed to be the case. One question is whether or not people can come to know Christ during the tribulation period. So if the rapture happened prior to the tribulation, that means all the believers are gone. And why are they gone? And as part of the reason why they're gone is because it's all that's left of the people that rejected Christ, and they're going to have this additional 7-year punishment prior to hell and or the lake of fire. But some people believe that people won't be able to come to know Christ during that period. Other people believe that individuals can choose to come to know Christ during that tribulation period. The Left Behind series actually does promote that viewpoint, that people can come to know Christ after the rapture during the tribulation period. So there are differing views on that. Then there's the mark of the beast, and that's something that is of great cultural interest inside the church and outside of the church. I personally believe that people are a bit obsessed with figuring those things out, but we'll get to that down the road. But there is a mark of the beast that's mentioned, particularly in Revelation, that is placed upon people, and they're executed if they refuse to receive it, which would be believers would refuse to receive it. They're executed for refusing to receive it, and without it they can't buy and sell goods and those kind of things, which, well, I'll hold my thoughts on that. Well, no, let's throw this out there. So in the Bible, when it talks about the mark of the beast, it says that those who don't receive it are going to be executed. And so I don't know if it's really that it's going to, you're going to not be aware that it got snuck into you, the mark of the beast. People propose different things. Some people thought that the Social Security number was the mark of the beast, or the barcodes on food products is the mark of the beast, those kind of things. All of that stuff, again, there has to be an accompaniment of execution. Either you get this or you're executed kind of thing. Otherwise, it's not likely that it's the mark of the beast. But again, that's a concept that sits under the umbrella of eschatology. Another is Babylon and the great harlot. And so Babylon is gone by the time you get to Revelation, but the Bible refers to, especially in Revelation, this idea that there is a Babylon that's going to be judged, this nation that rules, and it's majorly influenced by a harlot, by some woman. Some people think there's a literal woman that's in connection with perhaps the Antichrist. Some people believe that the woman is actually a figurative representation of some kind of influence. Those are things that we'll dive into down the road. Then there is the unholy trinity in the tribulation, that there is Satan, the Antichrist, and the false prophet. And many people try to determine who the Antichrist will be and from where and all of that stuff, which we'll get into some of that down the road. So that's the tribulation period and the things that take place during the tribulation period. Then there's the return of Christ. Now, solid Christian doctrine, orthodox Christian doctrine, is that Jesus will return. So typically you're not going to have a Christian that doesn't believe that Jesus is going to return. It's just the details surrounding it. So Jesus is going to return to the earth. There are some theologians that believe it's figurative, but for the most part that's outside of Christian orthodoxy. Most Orthodox Christians believe that Jesus will literally return to the earth. And when he comes back, again, some people think that it's a separate event from the rapture. So there's the rapture, 7 years later, the tribulation. But other people believe it's just the second coming, and that's it. Then Satan gets bound. This is the millennial reign view. Some people believe that Satan gets bound and held into some abyss or whatever for a 1,000-year period. He no longer has influence over the world, and Jesus reigns over the world for 1,000 years. And at the end of that millennial reign, Satan is released upon the earth, and that ensues a final rebellion against God, which is called the Battle of Armageddon, and God wipes them out. And then that instigates now the final judgment. And the final judgment is the judgment seat of Christ. There's two different judgments. The judgment seat of Christ is to judge Christians and determine the rewards they'll have. The great white throne judgment is the judgment to judge unbelievers, basically the judgment to decide, are you in or are you out? And again, there are different scriptures for that. Some believe there's just one judgment. Some believe there's two. Some believe that it's just Jesus returns and then you face judgment, and there's no other things like millennial reign and those kind of things. Some people believe the millennial reign is the church age. So there's differing perspectives here. Then afterwards is God destroying the whole world and heaven. So he destroys everything, and then he recreates. He creates a new heavens and a new earth and a lake of fire. And all the believers will dwell in the new heavens and the new earth, and all the unbelievers, along with Satan and his demons, will be cast, along with hell, all of that will be cast into now the lake of fire. So all of that is stuff that sits in there. Now, so that's the end, like the end of the world kind of stuff. So the common structure is some things happen to lead up to the rapture. Then Jesus raptures the church, the believers, out of the world, and a 7-year tribulation period begins. The first 3.5 years is the wrath of the Antichrist on humanity. The last 3.5 years is the wrath of God upon humanity. And then at the end of those 7-year tribulation period, Jesus returns, brings judgment and bounds Satan and sets up a 1,000-year reign of Christ on the earth. And then at the end of that 1,000-year reign, Satan is released. Final rebellion, the battle of Armageddon happens, and then God wipes that out and then judges everything and destroys everything. And the unbelievers go into the new heavens and the new earth that's created, and the believers do, and the unbelievers get cast to the lake of fire with hell and Satan and his demons. So that's the structure. And like I said, there's all kinds of ins and outs on what parts people believe and the variations within that, and what parts people don't believe happen. Now, there are other things that fall under eschatology. Now, angels and demons don't typically fall under eschatology, but I'm going to incorporate that in there. What are angels? What are demons? Who is Satan? What is he? And what happens to them and how they became that way. So that'll be under this umbrella, as well as what happens to us after we die at various points in human history. So in the Old Testament, Sheol is mentioned often. And so what is Sheol? It's the holding place of the dead in the Bible. What is it, and who went there? And does that exist now, or did heaven and hell replace that? Abraham's bosom is mentioned in the gospel prior to the crucifixion and resurrection. So what is that referring to? When Jesus was crucified, between his crucifixion and his resurrection, or at his resurrection, the graves were open and people came out of the graves. What was that? Where did they come from? What was going on there? Then there is the idea of when we die, some people believe that we immediately go to our eternal destination, and we're a spirit, our body's dead, and we're a disembodied spirit until the resurrection, where we receive a resurrected body, and we're either in heaven or in hell. Some believe that we don't immediately go to be with the Lord. They believe an idea of soul sleep, that we're just kind of unconscious until the second coming of Jesus Christ. And then, of course, there is receiving the resurrected body. So what are we in heaven? Spirit, body, and what is our condition. Jesus talks about that we won't be married in heaven, so what do we eat, food, all of that stuff will be explored in eschatology. If you have any questions on that, I'll probably answer them in future videos, but you're welcome to leave them in the comments below. I'd be glad to answer them. Or if you would like to grow in your faith in person and you live in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area, we would love for you to join us. We are Bethel Assembly of God at 2501 Staten Street, Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. and Sundays at 10 a.m. Or if you can't join us in person, you can join us via live streaming. We stream our services on our YouTube channel, Bethel Pittsburgh Live, Sundays at 10 a.m. We hope to see you then, but may God richly bless you.